I'm inviting Mr. Virender Singh, who is the collector of Sindhudurg district. His project was just mentioned in the inaugural session as a exemplary project. So we will hear from him firsthand how he is implementing e-office. We have Dr. Sanjay Kolte, who is Joint IG, Department of Registration Stamps, Government of Maharashtra. Again, a very, very important department which is implementing e-governance in a big way, and it has implications on the larger life of a citizen through land records and registrations. And we have Pradeep Kumar, who is the CEO of Vakrangi. And Vakrangi is like implementing the major governance initiatives all across India in various states. So it will be good to have both a government and a industry perspective on how, what are the pillars in e-governance implementation, opportunities and challenges. So with this intro, I will hand over the session in the able hands of the Secretary IT, and he will take over the session and take it forward. Thank you, sir.
Welcome back, everybody. It's now 12:50 and we'll try to wrap up by 1:45, next 1 hour. And we have three very critical components of e-governance puzzle present here. Virender is collector Sindhudurg, and he has done real good work in e-office, going paperless in collector office and tehsil offices. So I will request him to share that experience for about 10 minutes and keep 10 minutes open for question answers. Then we have Sanjay from IGR registration department. Our stamp registration department was one of the first ones about a decade ago to computerize, but only very recently they went into central server based solutions. Till 6 months back, they had individual desktop based offices, and putting them on central server changes the whole ball game. It gives them real-time info, and it has enabled them to open registration offices early morning, late evening, even on holidays. So I will request him to share his experience and how that department is rediscovering itself. So they were the first movers, but in e-governance, first mover also suffers from disadvantage after 6-7 years. The technology becomes outdated. So now they are redesigning themselves. And we have a very good industry partner, Pradeep from Vakrangi Industries. They are one of our biggest UID enrollment partners. They are also into CSC business. And now he's moving in a big way into financial inclusion, bank correspondent business. So probably he will cover those topics. Maybe we can start the same way, start with Virender.
A very good afternoon to the panel and the august audience. Much has been said about the e-office of Sindhudurg, and I would like to first of all thank the team at the DIT, NIC and my own team members in the district, starting from clerk up to the middle level managers who made it possible for Sindhudurg to go paperless. Although we had many IT-related initiatives which were undertaken in the district, basically to improve the fountainhead of the service delivery. But keeping in mind the time constraint, I will just rush over a few of them. Before implementation of the e-office, we had more than about 12 interventions which were running successfully, and out of these, about 4 to 5 have been picked up for implementation at the state level. These included the management of letters or letter management system, file movement and management system, arms license management system. Then we had public grievance redressal system, a state-of-art district planning committee and management system, an old-time system of critical response system was also implemented in form of district collector note response system. Then we had another grievance redressal system in which we went to the villages, we recorded complaints of the people, and that was managed through Sindhu Samadhan management system, non-agriculture, permission systems. Then the very ambitious program of the government was regarding 100 crore tree plantation. So each sapling was monitored through 100 crore tree plantation management system, and we can place on record that if I want to know that how many cashew plantations have been done, how many plants of mango have been planted in my district, I can derive the information through this, and we can also know whether the plant is surviving or not and whether it needs a replacement. Also, we had a critical system of monitoring the meetings to be taken by collector. Collector heads about 110 plus committees, and it is virtually impossible to keep track of each and every meeting, whether the meeting notes have come, whether the instructions given have been followed up or not, or whether the meeting has taken place at all or not. Just for everybody's information, collector needs about 1300 to 1400 seatings, varying from 1 hour to about 3 to 4 hours in a year. And if we see the working days, they are just about 180 to 190. So every day collector has to sit for that much of time to monitor and supervise the departments he's heading in the district. So this was also undertaken, and it has been picked up by the state. We also had some election related systems in place which made our functioning easier. Now the advantages of these were that there was entire administrative setup could be effectively monitored. Through file journey management system, we handled about 32,000 files in a period of about 1.5 years. Over 50,000 references were effectively handled through the letter management or Tapal monitoring system. We could effectively implement zero pendency in our offices. The administration was made transparent and effective, and more than 110 committees were effectively monitored through collector's meeting monitoring system. Then these are few interventions which are at state level, so I shall not be covering them. Migration to e-office was one of the major challenging tasks that was entrusted on us by Department of IT. Now if we see, I shall cover my presentation basically into introduction journey to e-office, in which I'll cover the critical parts of business process reengineering, resource gap analysis and filling it up, managing the change management, which is a continuous process, and it is the most difficult part of implementing any systemic change that we want to undertake, advantages and the way ahead. Now when we talk about Sindhudurg's e-office, it is the only model of its kind, and we can proudly say that it is the national model. It is the first district in the country to integrate the entire revenue administration starting from Tehsil level to collector level, and now we are integrating the Patwaris also into it. It has large geographical coverage, about 5,500 square kilometers, remote areas. As Honorable Secretary IT said that there are talukas where we have extensive connectivity problems. All modules of e-office are only functional in this district. This is the only model of its kind. Over 350 employees spread across this entire district are using digital signatures day in and day out. We have set up state-of-art central registry units, which are basically the interface between the physical environment and the electronic environment. Mobile, we have put model data entry and training centers at Tehsil, at SDO and at collector level, which are used for continuous training of e-office and other things. We have handled over 20,000 files till now, ever since the inception of the e-office on 24th December 2012, and more than 40,000 receipts or letters have been tackled effectively through e-office. This is the only revenue office in the country which has undertaken business process reengineering of around 1,900 subjects which are handled by collector office, and this is the only model of its kind to have done so. Now, coming over why e-office, when we talk about this, an average document which comes to office, it is photocopied about 19 times. Paper files double up every 3.5 years. Paper usage grows up by 22% every year and doubles up in 3.3 years. You need filing cabinets, you need cupboards, and every 12 filing cabinets will need one person to handle them. Average search time of any document is about 18 minutes, and some are never found. At any given time, in a large organization, 3 to 5% of files are lost or misplaced. Large organizations, as a study suggests, lose a file or a document every 12 seconds. 92% of the information that is required for the effective functioning of any organization is in Manila folders. Almost half of an office's time is spent only in writing down the details of the letters or files which are moving. 80% of the information is paper-based. Email. This is like surprising that it causes about 40% increase in the paper consumption of the office. Every email is printed several times for action to be taken on that. One tree can give you only 12,500 sheets of paper. You can imagine the environmental damage which we are doing. And a letter in an average government office has to pass through 41 steps before it is answered. And it is entered into dozens of registers. You can imagine the loss of time an employee has to undergo. Why e-office is very clear. Natural calamities, huge destruction of the records can take place. Just to give you an example that e-office can increase transparency and any kind of manipulation can be avoided. This is a classical example which is always given to us in the academy, Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy during our training, that any writing can be modified like this. Approved. If you don't want to approve it after some time, you can write note approved, and then it can be a note approved. Now, e-office has basic components: file management system, knowledge management system, service book, leave management, messaging services, and tour management plans. Sindhudurg has all these modules operative. We were very, very systematic in approach when we decided to implement the e-office. We formed a generic project plan, which I will cover in short. We formed core teams in each and every office, and the core teams were assigned particular tasks, that what they are going to do and what their duties and responsibilities are going to be. If we see the journey of the e-office, it started about 1.5 years back, that is 1.5 years back. But the actual working started in month of August. Then we carried out orientation workshops from September to December, in which each and every part, each and every link of e-office was covered. Infrastructure gap assessment was carried out in August, and all the gaps were plugged by month of October. Then the standardization and digitization strategy was worked out. When we start working on any system, like I said that we identified more than about 1900 subjects for which the BPR was worked out, and we have total 2,350 processes or sub-processes which are in operation in running of any district. So these were standardized and they were put into the e-office. Standardization of activities was done, that who's going to do what and what are we going to take up. Employee master details and organization build-up was prepared. NIC email activation and digital token activation was taken up for everyone. Then training activities and launching of the e-office. Now, if we see the implementation phases, planning, preparation, and implementation, as I covered, these form three most important parts of any project implementation. And if you do not have effective control over these things, any project will not succeed the way it should be. So I'll just skip this part. I'll just say that finally your planning, your implementation, and constant monitoring is what will matter in implementation of any of the plans which you undertake. Now, improvements which we did prior to e-office were that generally in government offices there is a starking shortage of computers and trained manpower. So we ensured that we give computers to each and every employee of ours using N-computing or giving them personal computers. Internet connectivity of 100 Mbps or 8 Mbps was ensured. Email usage was made compulsory before starting this. Now, this is surprising that none of the employees will use email communication in government offices. So before we started our journey to e-office, we ensured that everybody uses Gmail and they communicate to their branch heads every day through email, just to make them used to using of computers. Video conferencing facilities were established. Websites were created just to make them aware of the technologies. Various softwares, 12 were operational. Tech Saturdays were used for trainings. We had special drive for record classification, in which we classified records which was quite old, And during this phase, we also worked out our scanning load. So we consigned about 25,000 files to the record rooms. Many of the D papers were destroyed which were not required. And finally, we worked out that we have about 12 lakh papers and files to scan and put them into eOffice or migrate them onto eOffice. We made use of Unicode mandatory about 1.5 years back, business process reengineering as I covered. Now, BPR was the most important activity which was undertaken, and this was undertaken in 3 stages. Now, when we talk about filing system in eOffice, it was mandatory for us to teach our employees that what is the kind of filing system that is used in, as per the Central Secretariat Manual of Office Procedures, which is going to be the thing which they are going to do on the eOffice. So we first prepared our employees to learn how to handle the files as per CSMOP in a physical environment. Thereafter, we worked out about 2,350 processes, and we worked them out all the processes in 10 steps. And these 10 steps were basically what is the aim of each process, what is the workflow of the system, how many days a person can keep the file, like how many days a clerk will keep, how many days a deputy collector will keep, how many days a collector will keep, and what is the ideal time required for clearance of a subject. Then, what is the model note sheet that has to be written, what are the model orders, model drafts, model letters that they are supposed to be, what will be the outcome of the process, and how this outcome will be analyzed. And last but not the least, which was the most important, was to cover one subject or process, what are the acts, rules, circulars, GRs, High Court, Supreme Court orders, etc., which will be required. So an employee will have the entire set of procedures at every point of time available with him. So this is how the BPR was worked out. This is just a model which how the file should look as per CSMOP. This is another part of how detailed this 10-step process was carried out. And we ensured that each branch, we have about 14 such documents, and they number into thousands of pages, which was written down and documented. And I can say it with pride that this is probably the largest documentation of BPR which has been undertaken in the recent times. The basic infrastructure I have covered, workstation was given, networking problems were solved, scanners and software was made available through various channels, including DIT and NIC. Now, the basic bottlenecks which we had were that we had certain infrastructural gaps which we had to cover. Pending record classification of more than 10 years was there. We had to scan about 12 lakh papers and migrate them onto eOffice. We have huge connectivity issues even today at taluka levels. We had lack of trained manpower. We had employees who did not even know how to handle the mouse. Today also they are there. We had employees who will not be able to read and understand the links which are there in eOffice, which are there in English. So we had huge challenge of training these people. The routine workload of collector office is huge. We almost cover any subject that is under the sun. It is given to collector office. We have many of the mission mode programs running. We had day-to-day working also. Apart from that, we had to train the people and migrate over to eOffice. We did not have technical manpower, and in employees there was a fear of unknown ki eOffice kya hai. Why are we going to do it? What are the advantages? We analyzed the gaps, and the gaps survey was done so minutely that we even analyzed whether a computer has the basic processes which are required. Is its hardware compatible with eOffice or not? Whether the processes have been understood or not, whether these processes have been put in each and every person's computer or not, whether the RAM is 2 GB, 4 GB, 1 GB, how much upgradation is needed, and which Explorer which we are using. It was done for each desk. So the kind of nitty-gritty and minute details we went, this ensured the success of the program as it is running today. We covered the gap, one working desk, we gave computers, scanners, VPN over broadband was given to officers. Today our offices are remotely controlled. Even sitting in Mumbai, I can cover any of the files. And that's what I do at the end of the day, because we cannot keep our works pending. We have uploaded about 2,350 processes. NIC accounts have been activated for all. OpenOffice software is being used, and data training centers, 11 have been designed. Now, if you see a government office, typical government office, you will notice huge stacks of files. My office does not have even a single paper running in any of the branches, and this you can come and see. This is the training center, which is a model for the state. We have about 28 workstations. It can be used for data entry as well as training. It is there at tehsil levels also. We have state-of-art CRUs. This is the only interface between the physical environment and the electronic environment. Any paper coming is cut here. It's stopped here. You scan it, and then only the scanned copy moves forward, and it is stored in the CRU. The paper does not go to any of the branches. Human resource development. During these 4 months when we started implementing e-office, we had about 80 mass training sessions in which all the employees attended it. Then we ensured that we take table-to-table training. Each employee was explained nitty-gritties of e-office by resource persons going to each table. Thereafter, we created an e-buddy system that an old employee who does not even know how to handle his mouse was clubbed with a person who knows computer well, and he will constantly train him. So like this, we ensured that our manpower is trained. Technical manpower was provided by NIC and Maha Online. Changing the mindset of the people. I will cover it during the change management. Now these are some photographs of the training sessions which were covered. Now e-file process is very clear. Any letter which is coming, it is scanned in the CRU, sent to the concerned branch, and the branch either it will generate a new electronic file or it will put it in the existing electronic file. And thereafter only the electronic file moves. There is no paper movement anywhere else. Apart from this thing, it was very necessary for us to create a total knowledge data bank for the employees so that they do not even have to rise from their chairs when they are working. We have standard practice of having huge files of GRs, acts, rules. You have libraries stacked up here and there. So we decided that KMS will be populated in the most effective manner. So we created a huge knowledge database, and it was put on the knowledge management system. So our employees today, they can access any kind of GR, any kind of circular, any kind of document, any kind of precedences that have been created in the office. It is readily available to each and every employee on their desktop through a knowledge management system. It gives you a central repository of all the knowledge that can be there, and it is updated on regular basis. You want to see any kind of guiding text, it is available here. Even the BPR has been put on KMS, so the employees can know that how a particular subject is to be handled. We have an e-leave system in which leave application, cancellation, extension, joining report, approval, sanction, and leave balance can be viewed, and each employee can apply leave online. It can be sanctioned by the concerned authority, and there is no more movement of any kind of paper or any kind of even file for the leave management system, and the entire leave record of each and every employee is kept on the e-leave. Now benefits of e-office are very, very clear. If we say immediate outcomes have been increased in transparency and accountability. Everybody knows who's keeping file for how many days, how much of letters are pending with whom, and once a letter has come into the system, it does not die. It cannot get misplaced. And each letter, after it comes to the CRU, there is a specific number given to the concerned citizen or the concerned person who sends a letter. And through that letter number, which is unique, you can track this letter even after 20, 25 years. Quick disposal of cases has been made possible because now you don't have to wait for the peon to carry the files, or from tehsil the file will travel. It will take umpteen number of days before it comes to the collector office and the matter will be disposed. Now it moves at a click of a mouse. We can monitor the pending cases in real time. Exact position of any letter or file can be known. Now you have a single employee directory in which each employee's role has been defined. In KMS, we preserve the knowledge in an organized and in an effective manner. It has reduced the workload of employees. How? If you have to maintain close to about 12 to 15 registers and enter the details of each letter and file, how it is moving, imagine how much of time it will take. Our employees now maintain no registers. Their only work is, if an issue has come, it has to be put in a file and it has to be moved. So that has generated quite a bit of satisfaction in the employees that their workload has reduced. Unproductive workload has reduced. There's a better work environment, which you will see in the coming slides. Permanent storage, there is no fear of damage or destruction. You save numerous working hours and man hours while working. If the system is working properly, you can finish your work in 2 to 2.5 hours. And rest of the time you can plan, you can use it for increasing your knowledge, and you can utilize the manpower which is available in a better way. Just to give you an example, we have started training our Kotwals and our class 4 employees in handling of computers, so that these people can act as a force multiplier while they have nothing to do. Now they don't have any work in the office. These were few images of the office you can see. This was record classification which was undertaken. A comparison, you can see the stacks of paper on each table, and this was the real working environment. And now what we have, even district collector's table would be cluttered with files, numerous files, and he won't even get time to lift his head. Our office looks better today. The way ahead is mobile office. Well, we have ventured into this intervention also. Sindhudurg happens to be the first district in the country which has undertaken movement to the mobile office, and now our office is available on the mobile tabs. Even today, if I want to see any of my records, I can see it on my Android tab. It has facility of notifications, knowledge management system, feedback, leave management system, and appointment management system available. Now, it has a notice board, so any kind of GR and anything is put up, I get a notification that new GR has come and I can straight away read it. All the details of KMS are available on your Android tabs. E-leave is available. You can approve, you can apply for leave while you are on your mobile. All the appointment scheduler is being used for scheduling, rescheduling, and seeing each other's appointments. If today I have to go to a tehsil and I want to know what my tehsildar is doing, I can see it on the appointment scheduler, and if I don't want to disturb him, I can go at a time when he's free. So this avoids clashes of working environment, and time can be effectively utilized. As Honorable Secretary IT was saying, we are now having desktop-based video conferencing facility also available. So through link, and we have one-to-one and one-to-many. You can have as many as 250 users at a time using this system, and you can communicate with them. It saves time, and no prior bookings of system are required. These are certain images of BPR. Advantages I already covered. So in fact, thank you so much for the patient hearing. Sindhudurg happens to be only district in Maharashtra which boasts of not having any paper in its office today. And you are most welcome to come and see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Virender. Virender comes with the Air Force background, so he has gone about this task very systematically, and he has introduced a buddy system where an E-savvy employee teaches a E-afraid employee, and both of them come up. And people used to go to Sindhudurg for tourism, very good beaches, and by the way, they have extremely good scuba diving facility, so you must go there for tourism. And now he's inviting people for E-office tourism. He sent me a proposal asking for funds, that lot of people are coming for E-office tourism, and he wanted funds for that, and I very happily gave those funds. So please visit Sindhudurg for its beautiful beaches, scuba diving, and to see his paperless office. It's as pleasing an experience as a good beach. So any questions? Yeah.
Sir, I have two questions. Very impressed with the way it has been implemented. I'm from Finance Department, Joint Director, Accounts and Treasuries. I have, in fact, two questions. One is, how did you tackle the Marathi typing? Because that is where I suppose there is a hitch. Everybody doesn't know Marathi typing. How did you handle that when you implemented this process? That is the first thing. Second thing is, there are certain documents like registers, certain other documents which are prescribed by law, by rules. So standardization, while you did standardization, whether you have come across some kind of compromising situation where you had to change it, and if you have done so, then what is the statutory position about that?
See, the first question about Marathi typing, One thing we must understand is all the clerical staff is well trained in typing Marathi, and also they won't have any problems. The problem will come at middle level managers and the top management. So we have used the Google transliteration, in which you just type in English and it will come on. So that method has been used to ensure that the files are handled and tackled effectively in Marathi. And now regarding few of the registers which are mandated by statute, wherein you have to maintain certain records. Like in collector office, we have land acquisition proposals, which you have to maintain in a particular physical form also. So what we have done is that the entire process will take place on e-office, so that the document preservation is there. Meanwhile, when we are storing the documents, they will be stored in a sequential manner in the particular land acquisition office, so that in case the court of law requires it, the documents can be made available. So that is one place wherein we have made an exception of the CRU, that these documents will travel to the land acquisition office and they will be stored over there. Similarly, the court cases management system, which is yet to come on this system, what we have done is entire thing travels on e-office, but the corresponding record is maintained in a serial manner and put in the concerned person who's handling the court cases. So that is where right now a bit of parallel system is existing, but there is no parallel processing. Processing is only through e-office.
Hello. Yeah, I'll go. This whole change which you have carried out, have people taken the notice of e-office you have implemented, and how they are looking at the whole thing happening in Sindhudurga? I mean, way they perceive the government offices, has it changed because of implementing e-office?
As I covered, because of paucity time, I have not been able to show you the reactions by the citizens. Almost every 3-4 days, I get a letter from some of the citizens that what we experience now in Sindhudurg is totally a different experience. They don't find it like a usual government office. And today, the best thing that has happened is that in case, suppose he files an application to collector office and he knows the number, he can track its position from anywhere. He just has to go to Tehsil office and he has to tell him the number, that this is the number, I want to know what has happened to my letter. It can be. So citizens have also reacted very, very positively, and also when they come to the office, they get a much better response. Imagine a clerk sitting behind a stack of files and not being able to do anything or not being able to reply. And a person who's very, very neatly sitting, he has the entire office of his, he's asked a question and it is readily available on a click of a mouse. So citizens are also giving a lot of good response to the system. They are saying that once, yes, we do have certain issues of speed sometimes, so that time it becomes difficult. Otherwise, when the network is working properly, when the citizens come, their information is given to them within no time. So they are also reacting very, very positively, and to the extent that our public representatives are so happy with this system, that now nobody can tell you that something has happened and it has been done by someone else. Everything is very, very clean and transparent, that where and what is existing. So it has been appreciated by public as well as public representatives, and even the employees are happy.
So I have a very simple question. When you scan, you said files come in and they're scanned and they're put to the CRU. The file format that you normally prefer is what? Is it JPEG when they are scanned? So they are all saved as images?
No. When we scan, all these documents are saved in PDF format.
Okay, PDF.
And then the PDF file is forwarded to the concerned section, and it is attached as a reference or a correspondence to the concerned file.
So from JPEG, after scanning as an image, it gets converted to PDF?
We convert it into PDF, and then the PDF is moved.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Now we move to next presentation.
I had one question.
One more question. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. So I think this is an amazing initiative taken up in Sindhudurg. Just wanted to know, since the entire initiative has led to improvement in productivity, what has been the negative implication, maybe from the staff or the task force, probably who is more free now? So has there been a retrenchment, or have they been mobilized for some better tasks? How was that handled?
I didn't quite get your question. Can you just...
See, when people, our staff becomes more efficient, obviously some of them can be moved out to some other kind of work, retrained and do some other kind of work. And in typical government offices, there are 15-20% vacancies.
Okay.
So definitely, rather than retrenchment, it leads to basically more optimum use of resources and employees not getting that much overload. That's the immediate impact. And within government, there is enough lateral movement possible within office or in nearby offices, and that also keeps on happening. For example, in dairy development department, it happened. And in normally, even in our treasuries, when we went checkless, I found that in a typical treasury, there is 60-70 people in a district treasury, and about 20 are focusing on reconciliation. So when we go checkless, this 20 comes down to 2 or 3 people requirement.
Right.
So others can be used up in those areas where public interface can be speeded up.
Okay.
So that's the way slight reorganization happens.
Okay.
The similar things will happen here, but in
Okay.
some period of time.
Sure. Thank you.
Sir, good afternoon. This is Ramni from DIT. So 2 questions, sir. Number 1, in terms of the size of the team, let's say if other district wants to go about implementing that, what would you recommend in terms of the technical size of the team, and what sort of participation is required from the district officers or other officers themselves, and what was the volume in Sindhudurg of your team, the core team of your office? Number 2, when you went for digitization and you would have scanned the previous files and put it in the transition into e-office, while doing that, did you take a digital signature on all the scanned files from a designated authority to make them legally valid?
Regarding the volume of work, see, as far as my district is concerned, I have number of employees are less because of vacancies or whatever. And the division of the work, if we take any government office, the amount of work and the number of people who are posted will be commensurate to any of the government offices. Like I have 350, even if I have 3,500 employees, the work a clerk will do will be the same. Only thing which will change in e-offices that how do you manage the physical interface? That is the central registry unit. So that is the critical part, because that unit is going to scan and send the concerned paper to the desk. Once it arrives at a desk, then there is no difference whether it has 6,000 employees or 600 employees. Only problem or only area of concern will be the physical interface as well as the connectivity. So that can be worked out. To give you an example, I think Collector Office North 24 Parganas, it is one of the largest collector offices, and Collector Office has about 600 employees. And they are operating e-office on a local area network, and it is working perfectly fine there also without any issues. So it is not the number of employees, it is how the physical interface is managed and how your network is managed. That is all you have to do. And second thing which you asked about is migration of the physical files into electronic environment. If you know that each physical file which is there, your correspondence is numbered. Secondly, each note sheet which is there, it is signed by all the employees. So you do not have to resort to signing the file yet again. Means whatever is scanned, it already has the signature of the concerned person. And when we are closing it in e-office, as it is, the day it is closed, it is marked by the concerned branch head that this file has been closed and migrated onto the e-office. And when you migrate the file, your note sheet is migrated in the note sheet section and your correspondence is migrated in the correspondence section after due numbering of each and every paper which is there in the file. So as it is, you don't need the signature of the concerned person because signatures are already appended. And then the next note sheet starts in the electronic mode.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. Honorable Dais, all the participants and friends. I'll begin with a little information about Stamps and Registration Department of Maharashtra. The department deals with collection of stamp duty and registration of documents. Likewise, the preservation of documents is also one of the important functions of this department. In Maharashtra is the first state to annually recover maximum amount of stamp duty and registration fee to the tune of 17,400 crores. In the year 2012 and 12-13, we have recovered 17,400 crores. The department registers annually nearly 23 lakh documents through its 478 sub-registrar offices throughout the state. All these, out of these 478 offices, 464 offices have been linked with the iSarita new centralized registration application, about which I will be speaking in detail. E-governance vision of the IGR department is to replace the manual systems of verification and scrutiny of documents, valuation of properties, capturing and preserving copies of documents, conducting searches, maintaining back office records efficiently, registration of documents, stamp duty administration using e-governance services. As you all know, the department since its inception till the year, as sir said, 2002, had been working with the manual process of registration and collection of stamp duty. Then in 2002, we went for Sarita, a stamps and registration information technology application, by which standalone computerization was introduced in the department in all the sub-registrar offices. And after going on for 10 years on Sarita, now we have in July 2012 switched over to the centralized system of registration, which we call it iSarita. And the department intends or endeavors to go to the web-based online system or e-registration, like which means nothing but registration from anywhere, which is the ultimate aim of this department. Here is the roadmap, manual process to Sarita, Sarita to iSarita, where we are now at present, and our aim is to reach e-registration. If you think for yourself that you want to register a certain document, what will be the steps, what will be the requirement as a citizen, and what are the solutions provided by this department for them, that I will be mentioning here. You need to search the earlier transaction regarding the property which you, for example, intend to buy. Secondly, you will be needing to know the stamp duty and the registration fee which is required to be paid on your transaction. Thirdly, you will require to know the you will be required to pay the make online payment of the stamp duty and the registration fee. Then data entry will have to be made of the details in the document, and you will have to book a time slot for going to the sub-registrar office. So now for all these citizen requirements, we have provided solution in the iSarita application in this manner. For searching the earlier transaction, we have e-search. For knowing the stamp duty, we have e-ASR. It is the annual statement of rates, which provides the rates of the property in various zones. Make online payment. GRAS is the government revenue accounting system, which is provided by the virtual treasury of the finance department. E-stamping is one of the method which is implemented by Stockholding Corporation of India Limited, and e-SBTR is the new method of collection of stamp duty, which the department is intends to roll out in a month or so. For data entry, we have provided public data entry module, and for booking the time slot for registration in the sub-registrar office, e-step-in is the utility provided. Our department is the pioneer in computerization of registration process in the country. As I told you, we had launched Sarita in 2002. Now, here are some of the facts. Like till now, right from the time we started on Sarita, 179 lakh documents have been registered so far. This has provided services to about 9 crore people. Approximately 50 TB of data has been digitized and has been stored with the department, and 78,291 crores of rupees revenue has been generated right from Sarita. Now, what are the benefits of this registration process? It's a faster registration. Parties have to spend maximum 30 minutes at the sub-registrar office. Our experience is it is even lesser, 15 to 30 minutes is the practically time taken, as most of the parties are going for public data entry prior to approaching the sub-registrar office. improved quality in registration service. There is no need to submit photocopy of the document. The process has become transparent as the citizen is able to enter his own data and he is able to know what has been entered in the system, and he can verify it through the thumbnail print which is provided at the end of registration, and also the mini CD. Data control is with the citizens. Again, there are another avenue of entering data prior to registration. Besides public data entry module on the website of the department, MKCL is through its franchises provides a service of data entry, and they generate a barcode which the citizen takes to the sub-registrar office, and the barcode reader at the sub-registrar office reads the number, and the data is imported concerned with that document. Correctness of the data is ensured by the citizen himself, and non-dependency on the data entry operator. The system is environment friendly because we provide thumbnail prints to the parties at the end of registration, and duplex printing is performed there. So when paper is saved, verification through thumbnail print, no photocopy of the document. Earlier in the manual process of registration, or even in the Sarita from 2002 to 12, we used to ask parties to provide a photocopy of the document along with the original. So that has been discontinued now. 550 lakh pages are saved annually. Approximately that goes to about 10,000 trees saved annually. The application has made provision for accessing the SRDH of the UID. Provision to verify authentic source of UID has been made in the iSarita application. Provision of automatic data entry import from the UID's data is also there. Same data can be used for data entry, or it can be modified suitably. Provision of integration with other application using UID is also has been made possible now. Data security is provided in the application as our application and database is hosted at the State Data Center in Mumbai. Disaster recovery is located at NIC Pune, and near DR is located at BSNL office in Mumbai. Flat files are stored in encrypted format for the complete database. Access of application is only for the authorized users, as we use the MPLS VPN for using this iSarita application. Now the key success factors in this endeavor are automated process of calculation of stamp duty and registration fee. The iSarita application has integrated module for calculation and valuation with it. So the stamp duty and registration fees are calculated automatically. This has been able to remove the discretions also. Facility of online payment by citizens and verification of payment by the sub-registrar. All the payments made by citizens for the stamp duty and registration fee can be verified at the sub-registrar office itself. Those payments can be cancelled. All these things have been made possible in an integrated manner. Empowerment has been done for the registrants to search previous transactions with the help of e-search, as I told you, and they have their control over their data. Centralized monitoring and informed decision making has been possible through dashboard. I'll be showing you the sample of the dashboard. Public awareness campaign through newspapers, advertisement and brochures has already been conducted. I hope you have received the brochures of our 4 utilities which we provide on the website. This is the dashboard, for example, IGR dashboard, where IGR can monitor the process of registration daily at any point of time, going on throughout the 464 offices in the state. On the left hand side you can see the number of documents registered at any time, number of documents pending for registration, number of documents scanned, number of documents pending for scanning on that day until that time. Below that is the offices which have logged in and are open at any time, and offices which are closed. On the right side again, offices started. This has also made possible for the IGR and the regional officers, DIGs, to have administrative control over their officers as to at what time the offices are being logged in every day, and whether the staff is attending on time or not, that can again be, that is possible to monitor through the dashboard. On the right side, you can see the regional line graphs, which show the hourly or 15 minutes hourly registration of documents, and it shows the trend during the day as to what time the number of registrations are going down or increasing. It also helps to know whether some problem of connectivity or server or any other administrative reason is there for which the registration has stopped somewhere in the state. That we are able to know. And at the bottom you will see the 15 minutes bar diagram, which shows the number of documents scanned in every 15 minutes throughout the state. I'll tell something more about eSearch. It's the property, you have two types of searches available there, property wise or document wise search. All these this utility is available on the IGR website of igrmaharashtra.gov.in. You can search either from the property number or the document number. Search is 24/7 hours available. Citizen can search online from any convenient place by paying fees online. In fact, right now the utility has been provided free of charge. Soon it will be made chargeable by e-payment. No need to visit multiple offices. Discretion of sub-registrar in allocating slots is avoided. Citizens visit is minimized and thereby reducing the rush in the sub-registrar offices. Search of index 2 of already registered document has been possible. E-Step-in is another utility of booking time slot for registration. Online booking of time slot is possible. Token booking for SROs at a citizen's convenience and choice. Transparency is there in the process. Advance booking up to 30 days can be done. Registration in a disciplined manner. Time is minimized, saving of time for the citizens. These are the advantages. EASR is the annual schedule of rates has been uploaded on this website, and a citizen can check the valuation sitting at home. Needless to visit the sub-registrar offices. Easy and free access to the ASR. Again, 24/7 hours it is available. E-payment, as I told you, GRAS is the government virtual treasury, which has been integrated with our iSarit application, and e-payment of stamp duty, registration fee, and other document handling charges, etc., can be made through this. It's a safe, secured, accurate, and easy mode of payment. No queuing, unnecessary waiting, saving of time. The payment can be verified. The payment can be locked by the sub-registrar immediately, increasing the transparency and ease in the reconciliation process. Counter payment, this facility is available both for the frequent users or for one-time users. Frequent users can create their own user ID and password, while one-time user can directly use this e-payment facility. If the user has a net banking account, he can go for e-payment directly sitting at home, or if he doesn't have a net banking account, there is a provision for paying at the counter of the bank. Currently, Bank of Maharashtra and State Bank have provided this facility at most of their branches. Future plans of the department are extension of anytime, anywhere registration, that is e-registration, and NIC Pune has been working on the software which will soon be installed to make available index 2 of all documents and document itself registered till date on eSearch. In the eSearch, you have the copy of index 2 available after your search. You can download and print it. Document itself has also been placed for 3 districts, Mumbai, Pune and Thane, where you can download the document itself for the period 2002 to 2012. Document archival, retrieval and management system is what we aim for. Integration with land records management information system has already been started on pilot basis. In Pune, one at Murshi Tehsil, we have already started integration of SRO with land records department and e-mutation. Implementation of paperless office is also our aim, and establishment of a central project management unit. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. The last step of basically integration of e-mutation with this is important. At the moment in Maharashtra, when you sell or purchase property, you do the registration first. That has been made now quite citizen friendly. Takes real less time. A lot of online methods of appointment, payment, etc. But thereafter, it goes into a little bit of a loop. Getting your name actually entered in Satbara is still a task. So when buyer and sellers are both standing in registration offices, why can't the notices be served there itself in a way? Or since, and basically your name comes on Satbara. So that is not happening. In Haryana, for example, the same officer, Tehsildar, works both as a registrar as well as a mutation approval officer. There it happens simultaneously. You do registration, immediately you can take a printout with your name on Satbara. So Maharashtra still has a long way to go, but hopefully integration of the two systems will minimize that discomfort. Now, any questions, please, before we go to the next and final topic before lunch? So seems no questions at the moment, so I will request Pardeep ji to give industry perspective on what we are doing.
Good morning, everyone. Respected Chair. As the topic of the session goes, pillars of e-governance in Maharashtra. And I'm here to share some of my experiences with various projects of e-governance which have been listed here since this morning. And some of them are definitely game changers and actually making difference to citizens' life in this state. As I was sitting this side, I could see the picture of the sea link, Bandra-Worli sea link, and I could see some pillars there. And that is what started making me think, what are the pillars of e-governance in Maharashtra? So on a lighter note, I just looked around and I saw that some very heavy load-bearing pillars already sitting on the dais. And I'm not joking. As my presentation unfolds, I will try to establish beyond doubt as to why Maharashtra is in the forefront of e-governance in the whole country. And some of this is definitely attributed to the agility approach, innovation shown by Department of IT and other government departments of Maharashtra. And because we have executed these projects, so I basically operate at the last pillar which Rajesh sir has shown in his presentation, that is the execution pillar, or the PPP, or the SI, or the citizen interface space, where rubber meets the road, so to say. Let me take up projects one by one. And just the other day I was visiting one of our UID centers in Bombay, in Bandra, and I saw Government of Karnataka team visiting there, and just tried to interact, and I was just amazed to hear out that people are now, these stories of success of e-governance in Maharashtra are just not confined to the boundaries of the state. Now they have been going out of the state, and people are noticing, and they are trying to understand as to what is so differently being done here, that the e-governance rollout is really making a difference vis-a-vis other states. So it was the Karnataka DIT team trying to figure out as to what is
the approach towards UID which has made Maharashtra as #1 in the country in terms of enrollments. And Maharashtra is already touching about 6 crores, out of which bit of a sales pitch my company has done. Now we will be touching about 1 crore enrollments in Maharashtra. And I'm sure, have you guys done UID enrollment somewhere in Maharashtra in past 4-5 months? Anyone? So if you have gone to, the other day, like about 5-6 months back, I was sitting with Rajesh sir, and the discussion was, it was becoming extremely difficult to carry out any enrollment in Bombay because of the sheer crowd. You know, like if you put a camp with 4 or 5 machines, which will do something like 500 enrollments in a day, but from 4 o'clock in the morning, there will be a queue of about 5,000 people. So there will be gate crashing, fights, and violence. So it was just not possible to do enrollments. And then it was leading to some malpractices, like the machines going to homes and people charging money. And so my underlying theme, I just want to re-emphasize, is that even while at the policy level, you know, the policies are drawn and frameworks are rolled out, at the execution level, see the agility and innovative approach of various departments, which actually makes these rollouts really successful. And sir told me, can't we do something like mega camp, where we can put more than 20-25 kits. We will do publicity through media, and you can also have online appointments, and that is how we started a camp in Bandra with 30 kits, which was like maybe one of the largest biometric enrollment camps, not only in India, but in the world. And within 2 days, we hit the bullseye. 3rd, 4th day, sir himself visited there, and within 2 days, a letter is issued to all the collectors in the urban areas, Nagpur, Pune, Thane, and within 2-3 months, now you see complete smooth enrollment going on in these urban areas, where it was totally extremely difficult to, just because of the law and order issue, it was just not possible to carry out any enrollments. And in this camp, we started enrolling. So I said, let's do it from morning 7 o'clock to night 11. There's no problem of in Bombay. And we were enrolling something like 3,000 to 4,000 people in one camp. So now there are about 15 such camps operational in Bombay, Pune, Nagpur. Now the same approach we are requesting to all the district collectors, because the DBT deadlines are so tight, that can we not put a 4-5 machine camp in taluka level and let all the beneficiaries be pooled in there, village by village with the program. And that is how, rather than taking an operator and the kit roam around in the village and wasting his time in transit, if we can optimally utilize that time and let people come and do the enrollment. So sir has approved that, and the speed is, as I said, phenomenal. Just as we were sitting, he just on his iPad wrote a mail to team that let's issue some similar letter. So this was one very interesting, there were many other. This was like when the facilitating environment has been created. I was sitting in a meeting in Rajasthan with CS of the state, and UID team was there trying to convince them to speed up the enrollment process in Rajasthan. And I was surprised to see all those circulars which Rajesh sir has actually issued, which has made this faster enrollment in the country. And Nandan sir just took out a booklet and just gave it to the CS of Rajasthan, stating him that look how Maharashtra is doing it. If you can create these enabling environments in various districts, rather than strangulating it and taking it to processes, approvals, and things like that, I mean, you can easily come to the start enrolling at a very fast speed. And those circulars were like, he issued a circular stating that, see, the challenge was that at district, from the top, he could see that there are, right now there are only 4,000 to 5,000 machines operational in the state. And there are 29,000 gram panchayats. Even if you put one machine in one gram panchayat, you need at least 30,000 machines. So there's no point in like issuing long list and allocating areas and controlling it that way. So he issued a letter to all the district collectors that any agency can operate in any of the locations. They just need to inform the district collectors and let them operate. So that really, I mean, eliminated the delay in approvals, and there used to be, otherwise in district level, there used to be meeting of all the EAs and areas were allotted. And then when I am allotted some taluka, that is where I don't have operators. Somebody else is allotted another taluka where he doesn't have operators. So that was actually a lot of delaying things he removed. Then if people are there from UID enrollment sector, he actually got us approval that, you know, the supervisor who is UID exam trained and certified, he can actually be a document verifier. So some of these things, and with a very fast speed. It's not like you take 6 months to realize what is going wrong with this project, and then another 2 months to issue these letters. And that is how Maharashtra is now number one as far as UID enrollments are concerned. So let me come to the next project, another pillar of e-governance in Maharashtra, which we are doing, which is actually, like Kolte sir has presented, this is a project of IGR, and we are one of the BOT operators for this project in 14 districts of Maharashtra, in Amravati and Nagpur divisions. And I had very similar experiences with this project. And just because of very committed and forceful and very fast and agile approach of the departments of IGR as well as DIT, any kind of bottlenecks or any hurdles during the rollout were quickly removed. And it was a very enriching experience to see that even in government departments, things were being, orders and approvals were being done on emails. Let me share you an experience. And first very interesting thing was that something which can make a real difference between a success and a failure was that very good and real planning has been done before the RFP was floated for this project. And you can see the glimpses in the RFP itself. Every single exigency, user experience, citizen-centric issues, they all were thought through in great detail, and an RFP was brought out. And the specialty of my company is we try to match the intent of the project rather than just talking about just boxes, nuts and bolts. What is the intended outcome of the project? And that outcome is actually outlined in first 2 pages of the RFP, where in the preface they talk about the project and what is being intended to achieve. Sorry to say, but from my private sector friends, not most of us actually look at what is the intention of the government in terms of outcomes. And we just get involved and engrossed into nitty-gritties of sizing, hardware, software, then temperature, AMC, all those things. We actually, like in IGRS project, if some of you have been to any registration of maybe property sale or mortgage, you must have experienced a sea change in terms of your experience at SRO offices in Maharashtra. You will find a similar experience similar to the new passport offices. And you can come with the previous data entry online. Your time is really reduced. And what we have reached today is only the iSarita stage. The moment we reach e-registrations, it will be a different ballgame altogether. Sitting at home, some of the registrations can be done only online. So you need not visit SRO offices. Registrations like mortgage registrations can be done online. In this project, we were midway through the rollout, and the TSP which we have chosen, this is a cloud-based solution designed by NIC. So another, heads off to them. Another agency which is doing wonderful jobs, making rollouts really faster. And the infrastructure where Rajesh sir has spoken, which is already now in place, like SDC and SWAN. So what is required is just you could not have thought about something like this maybe 10 years back. It will take, first you will have to start with setting up data center, then worrying about the connectivity, and then it was a last mile was the last thing. So during midway through the rollout, and our TSP, our 2 Mbps MPLS connectivity provider, the company kind of bank, and they simply raised their hands that they cannot do this project. Now we were midway, half of offices are already rolled out, other half is in the process, and within 2 months we have to complete the rollout. And in 50% of the offices now the transaction is happening on the cloud. And we showed our intent. We spoke to Chokalingam sir and Rajesh Agarwal sir. We said, sir, look, this TSP is gone belly up, but we are ready to go up to the last mile, and we will invest more. They facilitated our connectivity through BSNL, and for faster rollout, they approached right up to the CMD of BSNL board, and everyone was involved, and they made sure that we get connectivity, although we were paying for it. But look at the spirit. I mean, if we would have been left to ourselves, okay, what we can do, you have filled, this is the very common refrain, कि आपने पहले टेंडर पढ़ लेना चाहिए था, सब कुछ उसमें, it's all your responsibility, अब ये हम क्या करें? But then morning 9:30, I am writing an email to Chokalingam sir, says, sir, this is the situation and all our offices will close. Why don't you let us use the SWAN backbone for some time till BSNL comes up? 10:30, I see he sending a mail to Rajesh sir, and by 11:30 there was an approval. We said whatever are the charges we will pay for that, but our offices will continue to operate. And by next day morning all our offices were operational. Now see, this is how this state is at the forefront. It is not like just by being in the media or just by some hype not supported by action. So, I mean, these are some of the experiences, and now that I work with more than 6 other states, I mean, the way this partnership is going haywire is killing the SI industry. Now you see so many, in so many other states, the SLAs, the RFPs have made it difficult to OEMs or SIs to get payments, because they were deferred payments for SWAN or SDC. Now, here is a project, IGRS, where IGRS has taken upon himself, they have committed a 30-day payment, and this is committed in the RFP. And I can tell you that for last 6 months, that is being adhered to, and we get 80% of our payment in like 8 days of submitting the bill. Remaining 20% is held up, and when all the SROs certify that this BOT is operating as per the conditions of RFP, that remaining 20% is released. So, and that is how, what is another very interesting outcome? That outcome is the cost of operation to the citizens, right? So what we are getting paid is something like 200 rupees for each registry. Now you see a situation, if these terms and conditions were very, very difficult to implement, then maybe we would have, the lowest guy would have quoted 1,000 rupees. So ultimate sufferer would have been the citizen. Now by facilitating such terms as part of the RFP, I can tell you another example of NPR project where the whole country's data were to be digitized, and if you read that RFP, I mean generally it should cost 1 rupee for entry of one person's record in a database, and the lowest bid for that project has been 4 rupees 50 paisa. And if you multiply it with 120 crore population, then you can imagine the cost impact. And why it has happened is, I mean, no price for guessing. The terms are so tough that 40% of the payment is being withheld for next 2 years, which will be paid after enrollments are done and these UID enrollments are completed. Then the data is to be corrected again. Then you will get 40%. So the quote was 4 rupees 50 paisa. So if you try to push the risk towards just the one party, as it has been, it's very amply clear even in World Bank procurement guidelines, then the cost of procurement goes up, and because the risk is being shifted to just one party. So this was my second experience. If you want to, like any e-governance project, we judge it through ease of transaction for citizens, the number of transactions, availability. So they are so agile in taking decisions. Then when they realize that, oh, in one single city of SRO office, all SRO offices, like in Nagpur there are 10 offices or 6 offices. They all open at 10, close at 5:30. So they just staggered. Okay, half of the offices start opening at 7 o'clock, operate up to 2 o'clock. Other half will open at maybe 1:30 after lunch, and they will operate till night. So I mean, these kind of things are not very common in a government environment. We don't see such innovative and agile thinking as well as fast implementation. Another like UID project, then we did for senior citizens or for differentially abled people. Sir came with an idea that let's have a mobile van. So we started a mobile enrollment van, and now it is doing enrollments of all the blind and other handicapped students in more than 100 schools in Bombay itself. So that is a spirit of the project. I mean, it can be just numbers, but if you don't take care of such issues like having drinking water at your enrollment center, or having like we have, he clearly emphasized that there should not be any queue for senior citizens, pregnant women and physically challenged people at the centers. Now there will be a different experience. The people will start thinking very differently about government projects. Some other things, yeah, so the success of e-governance projects is, first we can see reach, number of transactions, the ease of transactions for the citizens, and some innovations. So you might have, whatever I have illustrated, you can find a glimpse of all these important aspects in whatever is being rolled out in Maharashtra. and now the whole country is taking notice. Another very important project which we are doing in Maharashtra is now the next stage. Now we have so many Aadhaar enrollments, now what do we do with them? So in linking those Aadhaars with various applications. And those applications, fortunately, in the meanwhile, none other than the PMO and Planning Commission came up with direct benefit transfers. So we have been awarded the contract for Maharashtra and Gujarat by 25 public sector banks to roll out the BCA model or have a BCA in each and every panchayat. That is where the actual transaction will take place. Just at an analytical level, I would want to call your attention to this banking transaction in villages. As Rajesh sir illustrated that our stock market is now DMAT and one of the sinecure of world public to see. Now if you see this banking transaction, till now we have been doing transaction through a smart card or a PIN number or a debit card. Maybe for the first time in the world, here are the banking transactions happening through biometrics. So you don't need to carry any card or any passbook or anything. You just go with your fingerprint and you have your UID number, or maybe you just have a, like for your UID, on your UID card there is a QR code. You just show that QR code to that machine which automatically picks up your UID number. You put your finger and you may be a customer of Bank of Maharashtra. Now here is a branch, or what RBI had called them is ultra small branches, which is from SBI. So even a Bank of Maharashtra customer goes to a micro ATM from SBI, and this is what the model we are implementing. He just puts his finger. This transaction goes to the bank switch, from bank switch to NPCI ABPS switch. From there, he gets authenticated at UIDI through UIDI authentication, and the transaction is through to the core banking of that particular bank. So though it is happening in those rural areas, there is not much of electricity, connectivity is a problem, but the most modern banking is actually happening in those places, and it has already started working out. So my company is coming out with, first we are attacking all the 12 districts where actual scope of the RFP is to put up these BCA outlets in all the 27,000 gram panchayats of Maharashtra. We have started with all these 12 districts, and a beginning of the pilot district given to us before these 12 districts was Thane. And I'm very happy to inform that in Thane there is a which is even so close to Bombay, there is Tehsil like Jawar. I don't know how many people have heard about it. It's a tribal area. There is no connectivity, there is not much of power supply, and all 50 gram panchayats, our centers are operational now with VSET and DGSET and solar. On transaction, we have already integrated with Bank of Maharashtra. Tomorrow there will be a detailed session on DBT, and 10 locations with Bank of Maharashtra is fully functional for deposit, withdrawal, balance inquiry, etc. So these initiatives can be really transformational, and a lot of DBT transfers are already happening in Maharashtra, and I wish all success to all these initiatives, and Agrawal sir for leading these like a real champ. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any quick one or two questions before we break for lunch? We have one question. Okay. So Ravi, then we break for lunch? Okay. And I think Ravi is also inviting everybody for today's early dinner also. So please have your lunch. Come back at 3 o'clock or 3:15? Yeah, 3. Come back at 3, please. Stay on for 2-3 interesting sessions, and do stay back for dinner also. Thank you.